Nora Whitlock knew something was wrong before anyone spoke to her. The first thing she saw when the doors of Ironcrest's great hall opened was her sister wearing her Luna mantle. Seraphine stood beside Alpha Garrick Voss beneath the black iron crest of his pack, silver wolf fur draped over her shoulders, the ceremonial chain fastened at her throat. 300 wolves filled the hall. Council elders occupied the raised benches. Silver Pass officers stood beneath the eastern banners. Crown delegates waited along the western wall, and among them, motionless in a dark coat edged with silver, stood Alpha King Ronan Ashford. Nora stopped inside the doorway. She had come carrying the final Northern Defense Accord under one arm. Garrick had told her they would sign it together tonight. Instead, he had given her place to her sister. "Nora," Garrick said. His voice was calm, prepared. That hurt more than surprise would have. Nora walked forward until the murmuring stopped. She did not look at Seraphine again. Not yet. "What is this?" Garrick descended one step from the dais. "Ironcrest needs a permanent military alliance with Silver Pass. The northern border has become unstable, and 3 packs are reconsidering their commitments." Nora kept her eyes on him. "And Seraphine is the recognized Whitlock heir." The argument had already been rehearsed. War Minister Corvin Hale stood near Garrick's right shoulder, hands folded behind his back. A sealed memorandum rested on the council table before him. Garrick continued, "Through marriage, Silver Pass joins Ironcrest's defensive structure. Its military obligations become part of ours. Seraphine will become Luna after the severance." The hall seemed to narrow around Nora. "When did you decide?" "A pause. 3 weeks ago?" For one terrible second, Nora saw their bedroom in fragments. Garrick sleeping beside her. Garrick kissing her forehead before dawn patrol. Garrick asking whether the river packs would renew their winter toll agreement. 3 weeks. The thought made something cold settle beneath her ribs. He had been planning her replacement while still asking her to help him govern. Nora looked at the memorandum. "And Silver Guard Command?" Corvin's gaze sharpened. Garrick answered first. "The War Ministry reviewed the transfer. That wasn't my question." A few counselors shifted. Garrick's jaw tightened. "The alliance is legally sound. Did you verify the military commitment with Silver Pass Command?" Seraphine finally looked at her. Something uneasy moved behind her pale gray eyes. Nora noticed. "Corvin certified the statutes," Garrick said. "Seraphine is heir to Silver Pass." Nora understood what he did not. She also understood exactly how little she was permitted to say. 6 years earlier, on a snow-blackened ridge far north of this hall, she had sworn a military oath older than Ironcrest. Until a formal mobilization activated the command protocol, that oath forbade her from confirming, denying, or exposing the Guard's hidden chain of command to anyone outside it. Not even to a mate. Still, she gave Garrick one more chance. "Did you ask the Guard?" His expression hardened. "I do not need to interrogate every commander after the Crown War Minister has already certified the agreement." Nora went quiet. There was no satisfaction in it. Only the cold realization that Garrick had made the largest political decision of their lives, without asking the one question she had placed directly in front of him. Corvin broke the silence. "This is difficult, Lady Whitlock, but Ironcrest cannot build policy around sentiment." Nora looked at him. "I wasn't asking about sentiment." For the first time, Corvin's smile thinned. Garrick came down the final step. "Nora, this does not erase what you've done here." She waited. He reached for a second document. "I want you to remain as Chief Strategic Advisor." That landed harder than the mantle. Seraphine would take the Luna seat. Garrick would take the alliance he believed came with her, and Nora would remain behind to keep the machinery running. Garrick mistook her silence for consideration. "You would keep your residence, your staff, strategic council access. Ironcrest still needs you." Nora stared at him. "You still think that is a compliment?" His brow furrowed. "It is the truth." "No, it is the problem." "Nora, you chose someone else to stand beside you, and now you want me close enough to make sure the choice works. That is not fair." She looked at Seraphine then. Her sister's fingers were curled tightly against the white fur of the mantle. Nora felt grief rise, sharp and immediate, but refused to let it speak for her. She set the Northern Defense Accord on the council table. Then she reached beneath her hair and unclasped the silver Luna chain Garrick had placed around her neck 7 years earlier. Garrick's face changed. Nora. She laid the chain across the advisor contract. You don't get to replace me and keep everything that made replacing me possible. No one moved. Garrick lowered his voice. Do not turn this into pride. Nora met his eyes. Pride would be staying where I am useful, but no longer respected. The severance document waited beside the contract. Her wolf recoiled the moment Nora touched the pen. Pain flashed beneath her collarbone. She breathed through it and signed. Not the advisor contract. Only the severance. Seraphine whispered, Nora, I never wanted to humiliate you. Nora closed the pen. You wore the mantle anyway. Seraphine went still. Nora turned before anyone could see how hard her hands were shaking. The wolves in the center aisle moved aside. She walked toward the doors without looking back. At the western wall, Ronan Ashford had not spoken once. He had watched Garrick make his announcement. Watched Nora question the military commitment twice. Watched Garrick refuse to verify it. And now, as Nora crossed the threshold alone, the Alpha King stepped away from the Crown delegation. Garrick saw him. For the first time that night, uncertainty broke through his composure. He had spent the evening securing what he believed was an army. Only when the Alpha King followed Nora out did Garrick wonder what else he had just surrendered. Nora woke before sunrise because the severed mate bond felt like a wire being pulled through her chest. Gray light pressed against the curtains. The Luna crest that had hung above the hearth for 7 years was already gone. Only 2 pale hooks remained in the stone. Then the pain came again. Nora caught the mattress before it folded her forward. Heat burned beneath her collarbone, followed by a cold ache through her ribs. Her wolf paced inside her, confused, still searching for a presence that had always been there. Garrick. The answering sensation was faint now, distant, but not gone. At the washstand, she unwound the linen covering the severance mark. The skin was red and swollen around the fresh ceremonial wound. She cleaned it herself. 1 tear slipped free before she could stop it. Nora wiped it away, then braced both hands against the washstand until the trembling in her knees passed. She refused to call anyone. Her first thought was not grief. It was, what still needs fixing before I leave? Even now, her mind was cataloging grain contracts, winter road permits, the healer exchange with Grafin, the northern toll renewal due in 9 days. Ironcrest still had problems. They simply were not hers anymore. A knock sounded once. Garrick entered before she answered. He had changed out of his ceremonial coat. His gaze went immediately to the fresh bandage above her neckline. You should have called a healer. I managed. His jaw tightened. You always say that. Nora folded the blood-stained linen into the basin. What do you need? The question stopped him. For 7 years she had asked it differently. What happened? Who is angry? What can I fix? Now it was a boundary. Garrick placed a folded document on the table. The advisor contract. You brought that back. I never took it off the table. That may be the problem. He exhaled. Nora, last night was public. It was ugly. I know that. You planned it for 3 weeks. I planned an alliance. You planned my severance. His eyes hardened. Because Ironcrest needs Silver Pass. And Ironcrest still needs me? Yes. The answer came too quickly. Nora looked at the contract. Strategic Council access. Staff. Residence. Enough authority to solve problems, but no Luna seat and no place beside him. You still think that is a compliment. It is respect. No. Respect would have been asking me before you decided my future. I had 3 packs threatening to withdraw from the northern defense line, and you decided that made every other question smaller. I chose the pack. The old reflex rose to soften what he had done because she understood why he had done it. She let it die. You chose without asking the person who spent 7 years helping you protect it. Garrick looked away first. By sunrise, Nora had packed 1 case. Clothes, her mother's letters, 2 books, nothing marked with Ironcrest silver. At the outer gate, 2 council guards lowered their spears. Lady Whitlock. Former Luna security protocol. Your belongings must be inspected. Nora set down the case. Search it. They did. Then the senior guard did not move. You found nothing, Nora said. No, my lady. Then open the gate. We were instructed to hold you until the War Minister's office confirms your clearance. Nora went still. Corvin's office? Yes. Boots struck stone beyond the gatehouse. 6 crown riders entered the courtyard. Alpha King Ronan Ashford walked between them, wearing no crown. The guards bowed. Ronan placed a black silver-edged seal on the station. Crown Sanctuary. Your Majesty, the senior guard said. War Minister Hale's office ordered. War Minister Hale does not outrank sanctuary law. Ronan turned to Nora. Do you want to leave? No command. No expectation. Yes. Then the gate opens. Nora. Garrick stood beneath the archway. His aura rolled through the courtyard, sharp enough to make the younger guards lower their eyes. Ronan did not move. She is still subject to Ironcrest security review, Garrick said. She submitted to the search. The clearance is not complete. Then complete it without detaining her. Garrick looked at Nora. You do not have to leave today. Yes, she said. I do. For one moment, pain crossed his face. The severed bond tightened beneath Nora's ribs. She hated that it still could. Ronan waited until Garrick fell silent. There is something you should know before you accept my protection, he said. Nora faced him. I have noticed you for years. Garrick went still. You had a mate bond, Ronan continued. I respected it. I would have continued respecting it as long as it existed. Nora's pulse changed. And now? Now, I am asking for nothing except permission to be honest. What do you want? Eventually? His gaze held hers. The chance to court you. The courtyard went silent. Nora felt no rush of romance, only exhaustion, suspicion, and the unsettling awareness that the most powerful alpha in the North had placed a choice in her hands instead of taking one from them. Protection, she said. Nothing more. Ronan inclined his head. Then protection is all you owe me. Nora picked up her case and crossed the boundary. Behind her, the last thread of the mate bond pulled tight enough to stop her for half a breath. She kept walking. Under the Ironcrest arch, Garrick watched until she disappeared beyond the road. For the first time since signing the severance, he understood that Nora might truly leave and not come back. Seraphine's first morning as Luna began with 6 military dispatches and no breakfast. By noon, the silver mantle she had worn so carefully the night before lay folded over the back of a council chair. She stood over Ironcrest's northern map in a gray riding dress while Garrick read the latest border report for the 3rd time. 2 Frostmere patrols crossed the marker at dawn, Commander Vale said. They withdrew when challenged, but High Alpha electors are already asking whether our new alliance changes the balance. Garrick's mouth hardened. Corvin Hale had advised patience. The political union with Silver Pass was valid, he had said. But military integration normally required 30 days of command review before joint deployments began. Garrick had no interest in 30 days. He had severed a 7-year mate bond in front of 300 wolves because Silver Pass was supposed to make Ironcrest stronger. If he waited a month before showing that strength, every rival alpha in the north would smell uncertainty. Mobilize 1,200 Silver Guard, he said. Seraphine looked up. Today? Yes. Corvin's expression barely changed. Alpha, I would still recommend waiting until the integration review is complete. You certified the alliance. I certified the transfer obligations. Then this is an obligation. Corvin held Garrick's gaze for a moment, then inclined his head. As you wish. Seraphine signed the formal mobilization order. The first courier left before midday. No soldiers came. By late afternoon, Garrick sent a second order carrying both the Ironcrest seal and Seraphine's Whitlock authority. Still nothing. At dusk, the great hall doors opened, and a Silver Guard commander entered alone. Captain Dane Mercer was nearly 50, broad across the shoulders, his gray uniform carrying no Ironcrest colors. He did not bow to Garrick as a subordinate. He offered the respect due to another territorial alpha. Nothing more. Garrick remained standing behind the council table. Where are the units I ordered? Mercer's face gave away nothing. No units were authorized to move. Seraphine stepped forward. The order carries my seal. It does. I am the recognized heir to Silver Pass. You are. Garrick's patience snapped. Then why are you refusing her command? Mercer looked at him. Because Silver Pass may inherit its rulers, the guard chooses who it follows. Silence spread through the hall. Garrick glanced at Corvin. What does that mean? Corvin answered carefully. Some old military commands retain internal ratification procedures. Mercer's gaze shifted toward him, cold enough to make the distinction obvious. This is not a ratification delay. Garrick came around the table. Then explain it. The formal mobilization you issued today activated the Guard's command protocol. Under that protocol, field deployment requires authorization from the active warden. Seraphine's face lost color. Garrick stared at her, then back at Mercer. And Seraphine is not this warden. No. Who is? The identification process has been activated. Until it is completed, I will not disclose more than the protocol permits. Garrick's wolf pressed beneath his skin. You are telling me 3,800 soldiers can ignore the lawful heir to their own territory? I am telling you the Guard serves Silver Pass under an oath separate from inheritance. That was all. No legal lecture, no apology, just an army refusing to move. Garrick turned toward Corvin. Your memorandum said Silver Pass's defensive obligations transferred through the marriage. They do. You said nothing about a warden. The memorandum addressed the political alliance. I advised you not to mobilize before command integration. You made that sound procedural. It usually is. Usually. The word landed badly. Garrick looked toward Seraphine. She had gone very still. What did you know? Nothing certain. It came too fast. His eyes narrowed. That was not what I asked. Seraphine looked away. Something from the previous night returned with sudden, brutal clarity. Did you verify the military commitment with Silver Pass Command? Then, when he had dismissed her, did you ask the Guard? Nora had asked twice. Not warned him, not threatened him, asked. And he had chosen Corvin's memorandum because it gave him the answer he wanted without requiring another question. For the first time, Garrick felt the shape of the decision he had made rather than the justification he had built around it. He had traded Nora for an army. The army had not come. Mercer broke the silence. The warden has been notified. Garrick looked sharply at him. Far north of Ironcrest, Nora stood beside a cold window in the Crown Sanctuary house, one hand pressed over the ache beneath her collarbone as hoofbeats entered the courtyard below. Ronan was across the room reviewing a border dispatch when someone knocked. A Silver Guard rider entered, rain darkening his gray coat. Mud streaked across his boots from a hard northern ride. He saw Nora. Then, in front of the Alpha King, he went down on one knee. Warden. Nora did not answer the rider immediately. Rain tapped against the sanctuary house windows. Ronan remained across the room, one hand resting on the border dispatch he had been reading. The Silver Guard rider stayed on one knee, head bowed. Stand, Nora said. He rose. Ronan's gaze moved from the gray uniform to Nora. Warden? Nora exhaled. Formal mobilization had changed what she was allowed to say. Before Garrick's order, the old oath had required silence. Now the Guard itself had activated the chain of command. Silver Pass belongs to my family, she said. The Guard doesn't. Ronan's expression sharpened. Then who do they answer to? The warden they choose. His eyes held hers. You. For 6 years. The rider lowered his head once in confirmation. Ronan did not ask why she had hidden an army from everyone. He asked a different question. What happened 6 years ago? For a moment, Nora smelled snow instead of rain. She was 18 again, standing inside Silver Pass Keep, while Frost Siege turned the mountains white and red beyond the walls. Her father had taken a spear wound on the second day. Seraphine had ridden with the frontline companies because that was where the heir was expected to be. Nora had stayed behind. At first, no one had considered that important. Then the Western Supply Road collapsed under an avalanche. By the 4th day, grain was being rationed by handfuls. Wounded soldiers filled the lower halls. 2 villages tried to evacuate through the same pass and trapped each other in the snow. A guard captain wanted to send men after a stranded unit before nightfall. The quartermaster said they would lose twice as many trying. Everyone argued. Nora counted. She counted sacks of barley, injured wolves, carts, blankets, horses, daylight, and miles. Then she moved the children into the old ore tunnels, cut officers' rations before soldiers, redirected the last mule train through a neutral clan's winter trail, and ordered the trapped unit to abandon its weapons cache and retreat through the frozen riverbed. The captain had stared at her. If they leave those weapons, Frostmere takes them. If they stay, Nora had said. Frostmere takes the men. He obeyed. On the 7th day, she traded Silver Pass mining access for 3 nights of shelter from the Mountain Clan. On the 9th, she ordered half the courtyard furniture broken for firewood. On the 11th, relief forces finally reached the keep. Silver Pass survived. 3 nights later, 12 guard commanders entered the old watch hall. Nora had expected a debrief. Instead, they knelt. Captain Mercer, younger then but already gray at the temples, placed his fist over his heart. Silver Pass may inherit its rulers, he said. The guard chooses who it follows. Nora had thought they meant Seraphine. They did not. The oath that followed had been short and severe. The warden's identity remained sealed until formal mobilization required the hidden command to surface. Until then, Nora could neither confirm, deny, nor expose it. Back in the sanctuary house, the memory released her. Ronan was still watching her. You were 18. So was Seraphine. She was fighting. Yes. And you kept everyone alive. Nora's mouth tightened. A lot of people kept everyone alive. The Silver Guard rider glanced down, wisely saying nothing. Ronan noticed anyway. Why did you never use the title? I didn't need to. That wasn't my question. The words were almost identical to the ones Nora had used on Garrick the night before. She looked at him. Ronan waited. Nora turned toward the rain-streaked glass. Seraphine was the heir. People already came to me when something broke. Our father got sick. They asked me which healer to send for. The quartermaster lost winter accounts. They brought them to me. 2 families threatened a blood feud. They asked me to settle it. And that bothered her. She never said it did. You knew anyway. Nora did not answer. The truth was uglier because it sounded kind. She had kept the warden oath partly because the law required it. But she had also been relieved by the secrecy. One more visible authority in her hands would have felt like taking something else from her sister. Ronan's voice lowered. Who taught you that your strength becomes kinder when nobody can see it? Nora looked at him sharply. That is not what I was doing. No? No. He accepted the answer without pressing, which irritated her more than an argument might have. The rider cleared his throat. Warden, the guard requires your acknowledgement before any unit answers Ironcrest's mobilization. Nora faced him. No unit moves under Ironcrest command. Yes, Warden. Silver Pass defensive readiness stays unchanged. No retaliation, no display. The rider bowed. Understood. He left. Ronan watched the door close. You just refused Garrick the army he severed you to obtain. Nora felt no triumph. He refused himself that army when he decided not to ask. By the following morning, official confirmation reached Ironcrest. Garrick read the dispatch twice. Active Warden, Nora Whitlock. Seraphine stood across the council table, silent. Corvin Hale read the same line and showed almost nothing. Garrick looked up. You knew there was a warden. I knew the command structure existed. You did not tell me it could block the guard. I advised you to wait for integration. Garrick's stare hardened. Suspicion had found a place to live, but not yet proof. After he left, Corvin remained alone with a junior War Office clerk. His voice was quiet. Has Nora Whitlock's Luna-level defense clearance been terminated? The clerk checked the registry. Yes, Minister. Effective at severance. Only then did Corvin relax. Good, he said. Then the important part worked. 3 days after Nora left Ironcrest, the first problem reached Garrick before breakfast. It was not a rebellion. Nothing dramatic enough to justify panic. A grain convoy had arrived at East Hollow 9 days early, before the lower storehouse repairs were finished. By noon, a healer exchange with Grayfin had missed its renewal window. Before sunset, a river toll agreement expired because no one had sent the customary notice to the Southern Pack. Garrick stood in the council chamber with 3 reports spread before him. Who handled these before, he asked. Quartermaster Pell hesitated. Nora. The grain? Nora adjusted deliveries after the spring flood. The healer exchange? She kept the informal schedule. The toll agreement? Pell looked increasingly uncomfortable. Also Nora. Garrick leaned back. He had known Nora worked constantly. He had not understood how much of that work existed between offices rather than inside them. Across the table, Seraphine removed the silver Luna pin from her hair and set it beside a stack of unanswered correspondence. I spent this morning discovering that half your government runs on things nobody thought to write down because Nora remembered them. Garrick's jaw tightened. Ironcrest is not dependent on one person. No, Seraphine said. But you removed the person everyone had quietly built their work around. He looked at her sharply. She did not apologize. Far north, Nora was building something that belonged to her. Ronan had asked, not ordered, whether she would review a dispute between two crown packs arguing over winter passage through a narrow mountain road. Nora agreed because the problem was clean. 2 maps, 3 contradictory agreements. No mate bond. No sister wearing her clothes. Within an hour, she found the flaw. You're treating this as a border dispute, she told Ronan, leaning over the map. It isn't. He folded his arms. What is it? Timing. Both packs have rights to the road, but one agreement measures access by first snow and the other by first frost. Those dates were the same when the treaties were written. They aren't anymore. Ronan studied the documents, then looked at her. So we amend the trigger. And give each pack one fixed winter route. Otherwise, they'll be back here next year. At the afternoon council, Ronan did not say they had found the solution. He said, Nora Whitlock found the conflict in the agreements. The simple accuracy unsettled her more than praise would have. Later, a Silver Guard quartermaster arrived with the winter readiness ledgers now requiring Nora's authorization as warden. She worked through supply counts until one line stopped her. Silver Transport Convoy, Eastern Route, 42 wagons. Nora read it twice. She remembered the shipment. She had helped redesign that road years earlier because the northern bridge could not safely carry more than 45 loaded wagons in one crossing cycle. Is this number final? She asked. The quartermaster nodded. 42 departed Silver Pass. I signed the field count myself. There was nothing suspicious about the guard ledger. It recorded only what had physically moved. An hour later, Nora opened the latest Crown Strategic Allocation Bulletin, a regional summary available to commanders and authorized advisors. Most of it was routine. Troop readiness, winter stores, transport reimbursements. Then she saw Silver Pass. Reimbursement authorized. 60 transport units. Nora went still. 42 wagons had left. The Crown had reimbursed 60. Ronan noticed her expression. What? She turned the bulletin toward him. This says 60. He looked from the summary to the guard ledger. Could there have been a supplemental convoy? Yes. Or an accounting correction. Or a reroute. You don't believe that. I don't believe anything yet. That mattered. A discrepancy was not proof. Nora tapped the summary. I need the original reimbursement packet. Manifest, receiving depot, payment voucher, routing authorization. Can you access it? She paused. As Luna, I could have. The words sat between them. That difference suddenly felt less administrative than personal. Before Nora could decide how to request them properly, the quartermaster pointed to another entry. We have a similar shipment leaving in 2 days. Silver Escort, same Eastern Corridor. Nora's focus sharpened. If the numbers are being altered after departure, the physical route may tell us more than the paperwork. Ronan understood immediately. You want to follow it. From a distance. No interception. No contact. We identify the receiving warehouse and whoever takes custody. He studied her for a moment. All right. A pulse of severance pain struck without warning. Nora caught the table edge. Ronan moved once, then stopped himself. Healer? No. What do you need? 5 minutes. You have 10. Despite herself, Nora almost smiled. That evening, after she had gone to rest, a Crown intelligence officer entered Ronan's study carrying a sealed field report. The convoy escort changed, he said, more armed riders than expected. Ronan opened the report. One line had been underlined. Possible, hostile, operative. Observation route may be compromised. He read the warning twice, his jaw tightening with each line. His gaze shifted toward the dark corridor leading to Nora's rooms. For the first time since promising to follow her plan, fear gave him a reason to believe he knew better. Nora repeated the plan the next morning because she wanted no room for misunderstanding. The convoy would leave Silver Pass at first light, travel east through the mountain road, then descend toward Crown territory. 2 Silver Guard scouts would follow from the ridge. Nora would remain at an observation point nearly a mile back. Crown riders would stay farther south and intervene only if civilians were threatened. No interception, Nora said. Ronan stood across the map table, the intelligence report from the night before folded beneath one hand. The escort doubled. I know. One rider may be connected to Corvin's private network. That is why we follow them. And if they discover the scouts, they withdraw. Ronan looked at her. And if they come for you, then I leave the observation point. He disliked the answer. She could see that. Ronan, do not stop the convoy. A pause. All right. By midday, the convoy was moving exactly as expected. 43 wagons. Silver Guard escort front and rear. Nora watched from a wooded rise with Captain Mercer and 2 scouts, while the wagons followed the road below. Nothing happened for the first hour. Then 1 scout returned hard from the southern ridge. Crown riders. Nora turned. How many? 20. Moving fast. Her stomach dropped. Below them, convoy riders had seen the same movement. Horses shifted. Men shouted. 1 wagon lurched sideways. Nora was already running downhill when black and silver crown uniforms broke through the trees. Hold position. Too late. Royal Guards surrounded the lead wagons. A rider at the rear ripped a leather packet from beneath his coat, struck a match against his saddle buckle, and set it on fire. No. Nora reached the road as burning papers scattered into mud. Another man drove his horse through the trees before the crown line closed. Silver Guard scouts pursued, but the mountain path split almost immediately. Mercer returned, grim-faced. We lost him. Nora looked at the Royal Guard commander. Who ordered this? The man hesitated. She already knew. Ronan arrived 20 minutes later. He dismounted before his horse fully stopped. Nora, you ordered them. Yes. Something inside her went still. Royal Guard searched the wagons. They found silver bars, transport seals, provisions, nothing identifying the final receiver. The packet had burned almost completely. A metal-fastened transit tag beneath 1 wagon survived, blackened around the edges, with only part of its routing stamp readable. Not proof. Barely a clue. Nora faced Ronan. I told you not to stop it. The intelligence changed. The plan accounted for danger. There was a possible hostile operative on your route. So you decided for me. I decided I would not gamble with your life. Mercer turned away, giving them privacy. Nora's voice stayed low. You asked me what I wanted. I answered, and then you decided my answer stopped, mattering when you became afraid. I was trying to protect you. Garrick was trying to protect his pack. Ronan went motionless. He made the biggest decision of my life without asking me. You did ask. Then you overruled me anyway. This is not the same. No. Your reason is better. She held his gaze. A better reason does not make the decision mine. Ronan looked toward the burned packet in the mud. For the first time, he had no answer. That did not sound like an excuse. By dusk, the damage spread beyond the road. The escaped rider reached someone before the Silver Guard could find him. A storage building outside Eastwatch burned before Crown officers arrived. The quartermaster who had signed 3 receiving transfers disappeared with his family. 2 secondary accounts were emptied before the Treasury could freeze them. Corvin had been warned. Before midnight, Crown Counsel received his formal complaint accusing Ronan of using Royal Guard authority to interfere in a Silver Guard operation for the benefit of a woman he had publicly declared an intention to court. The accusation was poisonous because part of it was true. At Silver Pass headquarters, Captain Mercer delivered the Guard's response directly to Ronan. You crossed into an operation under the Warden's command. I did, without her authorization. Yes. Mercer's stare did not soften. Because you wear a crown, you believed your judgment outranked hers. Ronan could have challenged the wording. He did not. Nora stood near the window, listening. 3 days earlier, Ronan's restraint had felt different from Garrick's certainty. He had asked instead of assumed. Now she understood something more dangerous. A man could respect her when the cost was easy, and still override her when fear made obedience difficult. Ronan approached only after Mercer left. I am sorry. Nora looked at him. I know that does not repair what I did. No, I should have trusted your decision. Yes. The simplicity of her answer hurt more than anger. Ronan took a breath. Does this end whatever possibility there was between us? Nora thought of the courtyard at Ironcrest. Protection. Nothing more. She thought of how she had almost begun to believe power could feel safe in another person's hands. I believe you are a good man, she said. Something in his expression shifted. Then she finished. I no longer know if you are a safe man for me to love. He did not move. A knock struck the door. A crown clerk entered with a black-edged petition. Your Majesty, Minister Hale has filed for an inquiry. Ronan took the document. Nora saw the charge before he folded it closed. Conspiracy to manipulate Silverguard authority through improper Crown intervention. The operation had failed. The witness was gone. Evidence had burned. The trail Nora had planned to follow was broken before it reached its destination. And Corvin had turned Ronan's mistake into a weapon against her. Nora went to the Crown Records office the next morning carrying 2 numbers. 42 wagons had left Silver Pass. 60 had been reimbursed. That was all she could prove. The records clerk read her request twice before sliding it back across the counter. "I need the original reimbursement packet," Nora said. Manifest, receiving depot, payment voucher, routing authorization. The clerk's expression tightened. "Your Luna defense clearance expired at Severance. I'm the active warden of Silver Guard. That gives you authority over guard operations. Not Crown Treasury originals. Then file an emergency review. I already checked." Nora held his chaze. The man lowered his voice. "Lady Whitlock, I cannot open a sealed packet because the numbers look wrong. They do not look wrong. They are wrong. You have an operational count and a strategic summary. That is enough to raise a question. It is not enough to bypass clearance." The door behind the counter remained locked. Nora hated how much that mattered. Her eyes moved to the access matrix posted beside the clerk's desk. Luna defense clearance permitted raw procurement files and treasury annexes. Chief Strategic Advisor permitted maps, strategic summaries, treaty drafts, and council reports. No original financial packets. The contract Garrick had offered her would have kept her busy, useful, and completely outside this room. "He wanted me working," Nora said quietly. The clerk looked confused. Nora stared at the locked door. "He just didn't want me auditing." An hour later, Ronan stood before Crown Council because of what he had done on the mountain road. Nora watched from the rear gallery. The chamber was smaller than Ironcrest's Great Hall. 7 councillors sat beneath the crown seal. Corvin occupied the far end of the table, no longer smiling. A council elder lifted the convoy report. Did Warden Whitlock authorize Royal Guard interception? Ronan could have answered with the intelligence warning. No. Did she instruct you not to interfere? Yes. A murmur moved through the chamber. Corvin leaned back. The elder continued. Then why did you issue the order? Ronan's jaw tightened once. Because I believed the threat to her life justified overriding her operational decision. Nora felt nothing soften inside her. That was the truth. Truth was only the beginning. And did the interception compromise the investigation? Yes. Corvin spoke for the first time. Then perhaps His Majesty's personal interest has made continued royal control inappropriate. Ronan's wolf flashed briefly behind his eyes. He did not use it. The failure belongs to me, he said. Not to Nora. By the end of the hearing, Crown Counsel removed Ronan from direct operational control of the case, limited Royal Guard involvement, and appointed neutral oversight. He had lost authority because of the choice he made. When Ronan left the chamber, his gaze found Nora. She did not go to him. Accountability mattered. It did not restore trust. South at Ironcrest, Garrick threw Corvin's memorandum onto the council table. Where is the appendix? Corvin looked down at the document. Which appendix? The military command appendix cited on page 6. War Office Archive. It was not attached. It did not need to be attached for the political transfer. Garrick's temper sharpened. It contained the warden restriction. It contained command procedures. You knew Seraphine might not control Silver Guard. I knew command integration had not been completed. You made it sound routine. I told you to wait 30 days. Garrick went silent. Corvin stepped closer. You wanted visible troops before the High Alpha electors began asking whether your new alliance meant anything. I did not order the mobilization. The words hit because they were true enough to survive. Garrick had wanted certainty. Corvin had sold him something that looked like it. But Garrick had chosen not to inspect the seams. You knew there was a risk, Garrick said. I knew there were procedures. That is not the same answer. Corvin's face barely changed. Neither man missed the echo of Nora. Garrick took the memorandum with him when he left. Corvin no longer had an alpha eager to believe him. That evening, Nora spread everything she legally possessed across a narrow table. No raw treasury packets. No receiving records. No burned warehouse ledger. No missing quartermaster. Only dates. 4 months ago, she had questioned the first Silver Pass reimbursement mismatch. 3 weeks later, Corvin began pushing the Seraphine alliance. The night Garrick severed her, her Luna clearance ended immediately. The advisor position would have restored strategic access, but not the financial originals required to finish the audit. Nora wrote the dates in one column, then stopped. Corvin had not needed to exile her. He had needed a locked door between her and the evidence. The realization changed the question. Where the 18 missing wagons had gone still mattered. But the more useful question was what mechanism kept allowing false numbers to enter Crown reimbursement in the first place. Nora pulled the recovered items from the failed convoy toward her. Most were useless. A broken seal, burned leather, a bent wagon plate. Then she saw the transit tag. It had been fastened beneath the wagon frame with a metal clasp, which was why part of it had survived. The edges were charred. Half the lettering was gone. Only one stamped prefix remained clear. Vrshedem. Nora turned it beneath the lamp. The tag proved almost nothing by itself. A route. A code. Nothing more. But she had seen those characters before. Not on the guard ledger. On a Crown summary, Nora reached for the stack of reimbursement bulletins. For the first time since the convoy burned, she knew exactly what she needed to look for. Nora found WR7 3 more times before dawn. Not on every reimbursement bulletin. Only on the ones where Silver Guard field counts failed to match Crown totals. She circled each occurrence and stopped there. A pattern was not an answer. She still did not know what WR7 meant. At Ironcrest, Garrick was asking a different question. What did you know? Seraphine stood beside the council window without the Luna mantle. She had stopped wearing it after the Silver Guard refused her command. The silver pin at her throat was the only remaining sign of the position she had wanted badly enough to take from her sister. Garrick laid Corvin's memorandum on the table. You knew something was wrong before the mobilization. Seraphine's shoulders tightened. I knew the Guard treated Nora differently. How differently? When our father was injured during Frost Siege, commanders started going to her before they came to me. You were the heir. I know. The answer came sharper than she intended. Seraphine looked toward the courtyard. After the siege, military couriers sometimes used an honorific with her I didn't recognize. Once I asked Captain Mercer what it meant. He told me there were guard oaths I did not need to know unless they were activated. Garrick's expression hardened. And when Corvin brought the marriage proposal, I remembered it. You said nothing. I did not know she was the warden. That was not what I asked. Seraphine closed her eyes. No. I said nothing. Why? For a long moment she did not answer. Then she removed the silver pin from her throat and placed it on the table. Because for once, people were looking at me first. Garrick said nothing. When our mother was dying, the household asked Nora which healer to send for. When the winter accounts failed, they asked Nora. When two mountain families nearly started killing each other, they asked Nora. Seraphine gave a brittle laugh. I was the heir. She was the person everyone trusted. That does not justify this. I know. You let me believe you could bring the guard. I let you believe Corvin had checked everything. Garrick looked down at the memorandum. Corvin gave me the lie. Seraphine waited. You let me believe it. His hand closed around the table edge. But I signed the severance. For the first time since Nora left, Garrick said it without adding the pack, the border, or the high alpha vote afterward. The responsibility stayed where it belonged. By midday, Corvin stopped defending himself and attacked. His petition reached the Crown sanctuary under black seal. Nora read it beside the table where the WR7 summaries lay open. The charge accused her of conspiring with Silver Guard to create an independent military bloc under Alpha King Ronan's protection. It cited Ronan's convoy interception, his public declaration of romantic interest, and the Guard's refusal to obey Ironcrest. Corvin had taken the worst consequence of Ronan's mistake and built a case around it. Ronan read the petition once. I can suspend this. Nora looked at him. Under emergency Crown authority. The petition is politically motivated, and Corvin is already under review. A week earlier, she might have heard protection. Now she heard power. What happens if you suspend it? He cannot force a public tribunal while I review jurisdiction. And what will he tell every alpha in the north? Ronan's jaw tightened. That I needed you to stop him for me. He will say worse. I know. Silence stretched between them. Ronan's first instinct was visible in the tension across his shoulders. End the threat. Close the door. Protect her before Corvin could reach her. Nora waited to see what he would do with that instinct. He looked at her. What do you want me to do? The question hurt more than she expected because this time she knew what it cost him to ask. Nothing. Ronan went still. Let him bring the charge. He will attack your authority, your motives, the guard. I know. He will use what I did. Yes. Ronan's face tightened. Nora did not soften the answer. If I hide behind your crown now, Corvin wins before the hearing starts. For several seconds, Ronan said nothing. Then he placed the petition back on the table. All right. No argument. No secret order. No attempt to reinterpret her answer. I will not suspend it. Something in Nora's chest shifted, but it was not forgiveness. Not yet. A crown clerk waiting by the door cleared his throat. The tribunal requires a venue. Corvin had requested Ironcrest. Nora almost laughed at the cruelty of it. The same great hall where Seraphine had worn her mantle. The same dais where Garrick had severed her before 300 wolves. The same room where Nora had been told she was no longer valuable enough to stand beside him but still useful enough to remain behind. Ronan watched her face. We can challenge the venue. Nora looked down at the scorched transit tag beside the reimbursement summaries. WR7 appeared 3 times in the papers beneath it. She still did not know what the code opened. But she knew where she wanted to answer Corvin. No, she said. Ironcrest is fine. The clerk bowed and left. Ronan did not ask why. For the first time since the convoy, he let Nora choose the battlefield. The Ironcrest Great Hall looked smaller when Nora entered it the second time. The Luna mantle was gone from the dais. Crown judges occupied the raised bench. Silver Guard officers stood along the eastern wall, and Ironcrest elders filled the galleries. Garrick waited near the council table. Seraphine stood several paces away in plain gray. Ronan walked beside Nora until they reached the center aisle. Then, he took his place with the Crown delegation and gave her the space she had asked for. Corvin Hale waited at the evidence table. Lady Whitlock, he said, or should we call you Warden now? Nora is fine. The chief tribunal elder struck the stone once. Corvin began with the story he wanted the room to believe. Nora had been rejected by her mate. Within days, she had revealed control over nearly 4,000 soldiers. The Alpha King had publicly declared romantic interest in her, then used Crown troops to interfere in a Silver Guard convoy. Now Nora accused the War Office of corruption. An unfortunate sequence, Corvin said. If one wishes us to believe this is not political retaliation. Murmurs moved through the gallery. Nora looked at the judges. I would like to start with the convoy numbers. Corvin smiled faintly. Not your broken heart? No. Nora called the Silver Guard quartermaster, who had brought her the winter readiness ledger. How many silver wagons left Silver Pass under convoy record 47? 40th way. Did you certify that count? Yes. He authenticated the field ledger. Nora placed a Crown strategic reimbursement summary beside it. And how many transport units did the Crown reimburse? The elder leaned closer. 60. Corvin spoke immediately. Supplemental transport, emergency rerouting, accounting adjustment. There are ordinary explanations. I agree. His expression changed. One mismatch proves almost nothing. Nora placed 2 older reimbursement summaries beside the first. These were legally issued during my prior defense work. In each case, the Silver Guard field count is lower than the reimbursed total. She turned the pages toward the tribunal. The same routing prefix appears on every discrepancy. Vrshedem. Then she placed the scorched transit tag from the failed convoy beside them. Its edges were black. Half the stamp had burned away. This tag does not prove theft, Nora said. It proves only that the intercepted convoy also moved through the same routing channel. The chief elder nodded. Then what does WR7 mean? That is the question I could not answer from the records available to me. Nora turned toward the independent treasury officer seated beneath Crown oversight. What does WR7 designate? The officer opened the registry brought for authentication. War Reserve 7. Who has administrative authority over that reserve? The Office of the Crown War Minister. Every face turned toward Corvin. He did not flinch. An office account is not a personal account. No, Nora said. It is not. But every reimbursement anomaly I found passed through the same office you controlled. That does not prove I stole anything. No. It proves there is enough to ask why the pattern was protected. Nora laid out the dates she had already established. Her first audit request 4 months earlier, Corvin's push for the Seraphine alliance 3 weeks later, the severance that ended her Luna clearance, and the advisor contract that would have restored strategic work without reopening raw treasury access. Nothing on the table was new to Nora. She had seen every piece before. Only the connection between them was new. Corvin looked toward the judges. She is inventing motive from coincidence. Then let us test the surrounding facts. Nora called Captain Mercer. He confirmed that Silverguard had chosen Nora as warden 6 years earlier after Frost's siege, and that the oath prevented disclosure until formal mobilization activated the command structure. So, I did not invent military authority after Garrick rejected me, Nora said. No. Seraphine came next. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. I did not know Nora was the warden, but I knew enough to know the guard's authority was not as simple as the memorandum made it sound. I should have told Garrick to ask more questions. Why didn't you? Nora asked. Seraphine looked directly at her. Because I wanted your place. Silence followed. Garrick was the last witness, Nora called. Corvin stared at him. I warned you, integration was incomplete. You did. You chose to mobilize early. I did. Corvin looked almost relieved. Then Garrick said, But you gave me a memorandum that made a serious military restriction look like routine procedure. Did Corvin force you to sever Nora? The elder asked. No. Garrick's voice carried through the hall. He gave me the answer I wanted. I chose not to verify it because I wanted the power it promised. The admission did not repair what he had done. It put responsibility where it belonged. Corvin stepped forward. We still have no proof. I personally took crown funds. Nora faced him. You are right. The hall shifted. I am not asking this tribunal to convict you of theft. I am asking whether repeated false reimbursements moved through an office under your authority, whether my audit threatened access to those records, and whether you then helped create the political event that removed my clearance. She held his gaze. That is enough to investigate what happened next without leaving you in control of the records. The chief elder called a recess. When the judges returned, the hall stood. The conspiracy charge against Nora was dismissed. Her authority as war warden was formally recognized. Corvin was ordered to surrender the war minister's seal immediately. He was removed from operational authority and placed under Crown detention while an independent criminal investigation and forensic treasury audit proceeded. No one called him convicted. The evidence was enough to remove his power and preserve what remained. Then an Ironcrest elder turned toward Nora. With Seraphine's Luna transfer now under formal revocation, you may petition to reclaim your former seat. Garrick stopped breathing. Nora looked at the empty chair beside the dais. Once, losing it had felt like losing herself. Now it looked like furniture. No, she said. The elder blinked. Lady Whitlock? I don't want back what I had to lose to learn I was more than it. Along the eastern wall, Captain Mercer struck his fist over his heart. One Silverguard officer followed. Then another. The sound rolled through the hall. Not for a Luna, not for a future queen, for their warden. Across the room, Ronan remained exactly where Nora had asked him to stand. He had not saved her. This time, he had trusted her to save herself. 3 days after the tribunal, Garrick signed away the future he had once believed worth losing Nora for. The High Alpha withdrawal lay beside 2 Crown probation orders and a formal acknowledgement of Silver Pass military autonomy. Garrick signed each one without argument. Nora stood across the council table. I kept telling myself Corvin manipulated me, he said. He did. That was easier than saying the rest. She waited. Garrick looked at the final document. I wanted what he was offering. More soldiers, more influence, a stronger position. His mouth tightened. I thought losing you was the price of becoming stronger. Nora said nothing. I didn't understand how much of that strength was yours. He signed. For a moment, the man she had loved for 7 years looked familiar enough to hurt. I am sorry. I believe you. Hope crossed his face before she finished. That does not rebuild trust. The hope faded. I know. Nora studied him. Then maybe you finally understand me. She left him with the documents and did not look back. 2 days later, Seraphine met her at Silver Pass Keep. There was no Luna mantle, no Ironcrest silver, only a gray riding coat and the face Nora had known since childhood. Seraphine placed the Luna pin on the table between them. I never loved Garrick. That is not as comforting as you think. A weak laugh escaped Seraphine and died quickly. I wanted the room, she said. The way people looked at me when I wore the mantle. Nora's throat tightened. You could have warned me. I know. You could have told Garrick there was more he needed to ask. I know. You watched him remove me anyway. Seraphine closed her eyes. Yes. For years, Nora would have softened the moment, explained Seraphine's pain back to her, made forgiveness easier. She did not. I may forgive you. Seraphine looked up. But trust does not come back because we share blood. The words hurt them both. That was not a reason to take them back. Seraphine nodded. I understand. Nora picked up her half-finished winter report. I'm not closing the door forever. It was all she could honestly give. For the next several weeks, Ronan gave her something harder to notice than pursuit. Space. He did not send gifts. He did not reopen courtship in every conversation. He did not use Crown business as an excuse to remain at Silver Pass. The consequences of the convoy remained. The missing quartermaster had not been found. Part of the stolen money was still unrecovered. At least one secondary account had vanished beyond Crown jurisdiction. Council critics continued questioning Ronan's judgment, and the directive protecting Silverguard autonomy remained in force even when it limited his own authority. He never tried to reverse it. That mattered to Nora. Not because suffering proved love, because he had changed rules that constrained him, then left them in place after the crisis passed. At dawn on the first clear morning after the forensic audit began, Nora climbed Silver Pass's eastern rampart. Ronan was waiting near the old watchtower. No escort, no crown, only a small black box in one hand. Nora stopped several feet away. That looks ceremonial. It is painfully ceremonial. Should I be worried? Probably. Almost a smile. Then Ronan's expression changed. Before anything else, I owe you an apology without a defense attached to it. Nora waited. I asked what you wanted. You answered clearly. I became afraid, and I decided my fear gave me the right to overrule you. He did not look away. The operation failed because of my order. Corvin was warned. Evidence was destroyed. A witness disappeared. Your credibility was damaged because I used my crown where you told me not to. Nora's chest tightened. I haven't forgotten. I'm not asking you to. That answer mattered more than an excuse would have. Ronan opened the box. Inside rested a silver courtship seal bearing the crown wolf. I still want the chance to court you. Nora looked at the seal, then at him. And if I say no, then I leave here wanting you and respecting your answer. No hesitation. Nora let the silence stretch. 3 conditions. Ronan's mouth shifted. Only 3? Do not encourage me. He waited. Silverguard remains independent. Agreed. My council authority remains mine, not borrowed from your crown, not exercised as your representative. Agreed. And there will be no mate bond because a court, a council, or a king expects one. If that day comes, I decide when. Agreed. Nora narrowed her eyes. No negotiation? Those are boundaries, not bargaining points. The wind moved over the wall between them. Weeks ago, Nora would have measured love by how necessary she could make herself. Garrick had needed her and still discarded her. Ronan had wanted to protect her and still hurt her. The difference was not perfection. It was what a man did after discovering his own power could become dangerous. Nora extended her hand. Ronan did not touch her. He placed the courtship seal in her palm. Her choice. She closed her fingers around it. Yes, she said. Only then did Ronan smile. Below them, Silver Pass's morning horn rolled through the valley. Nora set her warden insignia on the stone parapet and placed the royal courtship seal beside it. 2 kinds of power, neither above the other. Ronan stood beside her, not in front of her. For most of her life, Nora had believed love was safest when she made herself indispensable. At last, she understood something better. The right love did not ask her to earn the right to stay.